What it do, what it do, what it do. Today we're gonna talk about trauma again. Yes, again, my bro. Why? Because we need to do it. So, I'm gonna start off with my story. Yesterday I was walking and this was a moment where I was reliving trauma. And now I'm very aware of it and I just go about my day like journaling. But sometimes I don't want to journal about it because I'm too afraid to journal about it. It's causing too much pain within me to confront it because that's how trauma works. It makes you shameful about the things that you're experiencing. So yesterday I was just walking around and I always notice it as soon as I'm like reliving my trauma, I have a problem looking people in their eyes, and especially like older people and people my age, and basically always dudes. I always like feel like the need to show you like, yo, I'm not afraid of you. I'm gangster. I'm willing to hurt you. But nowadays I realize like that's all internal hate. Because bro, the days when I'm happy, I will never do that. Never. But when you're just not happy, that's just what you will do because the world feels cruel to you. And this is also a proven study. This is proven that when you're reliving trauma shuts down your, I think it's your MPFC. I think it's like your mid prefrontal cortex. We ain't gonna get into the boring stuff, right? So, but just know that because I could be wrong about that what the name of the part is, but it's a real fact. So a part of your brain shuts down when you're reliving trauma, and that is also the part of your brain that handles like interest towards the world. So now you're just so focused on reliving trauma that that part of your brain shuts down, so your interest for the world shuts down with it. And that's what I've noticed yesterday. The world feels like a threat, and like people my age, I look at them like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm very tough. I'm this or that. And now I actually know that I'm afraid. But back then I wasn't aware of that I was afraid. At that point it was just, yeah, I'm mean mugging people because I'm tough. I'm gangster. But I also like I was walking through a different part of my city, which was like basically more like the richer part of my city. And I was walking over there and I was just so concerned about how the world perceives me that I wanted to go in like a street and check out the house. I was just really interested about the house because there were pretty houses, big houses, things like that, very nice houses. But I was too afraid how the world perceived me because I was like, no, if I will go down that street, then they will probably think that I'm just out here to steal somebody because they will immediately see that I'm not from here, things like that. And I also like felt ashamed to look people in the eyes, older people, because I can't really explain it, but that's how like at that point like it just feels like you don't have an identity. It's just like the world is above you. Like you're just somebody who is just equal to the ground. At least that's how you feel. And yesterday I also noticed like I was really like, you just feel you're just the internal anger consumes you, and you just want to project that onto the world. You actually want to hurt people. Why? Because you're hurting yourself. And That's like how trauma numbs you from the world, because it actually is proven that the the section of your brain that handles interest towards the world, like your open creativity and look at another person like, damn, who is that? I don't know that person. Let me talk to him or her. Or you just see a tree and be like, damn, that's beautiful, but that part is just shut down. You're only focused on how does he or she perceives me? How is he or she a threat? Am I safe right now? Do I need to put on that fake mask of being overly tough to not fall through and be hurt maybe, or be attacked or something like. And that's just like, not, it's not even being attacked, because deep down you kind of know like, bro, I'm in the like the best part of the city. If there was something happen, then it probably wouldn't be over here. So it's not that you're afraid for the people in a sense that you feel attacked, because that's also like, and I will continue to say this, that is not necessarily trauma. A lot of people's, their trauma doesn't stem from just violence. Oftentimes, yes, violence always is like kind of connected with trauma, but not always. Now I would say, yeah, not always, because it really differs from the person, but it was more in a sense that I was afraid of the people because I was just too ashamed of myself. Because why? Because I didn't feel myself, and that's real crazy. And now I'm aware of it, and like now I'm aware of it, so I know when I don't have that sense of self, and that's why like I get mad sometimes at people that are like in the stage where I used to be, when you're just out on the streets and you're just proving the world how tough you are. But now I understand, like, when I go through those phases, and it's basically like at that point I'm emotionally, I'm feeling like within my body, I'm feeling like how I was feeling like a couple years ago when I just came out of prison, and before that, things like that. But now I just think like I'm not that different from that person. I just have more like conscious awareness of what's going on within me. But I also feel the need to prove myself, because that's what trauma will make you do, because that sense of self is entirely gone. So you feel like you need to prove the world who you are. And like now we get to the next topic, which is also a story of mine, and that is trauma is also the reason why the world is collapsing. And it's collapsing in all kind of ways, but now we're just gonna talk about nature specifically. So I love animals. Like, I love animals, but that was in my stages when I was in my purest form, right? Even when you're like a younger child and trauma is prevalent within you, your inner child will just always pop out because you're a child. Yes, I was already experiencing a lot of crazy shit. I was having those anger attacks, anxiety attacks that I wasn't aware of, that was causing me to be angry. But yes, I was already experiencing those things, but at the same time I was also obsessed about orcas. I really love orcas. I just watched like a documentary on it, and that just also shows me, that just also motivated me to make this video. But to further go on my example, I always loved animals, but when I was just growing up, like around that age of 13, I was just so, the trauma consumed me in a way that I just lost all part of myself. So I was no longer researching about animals. Now I was only worried about how the world perceived me. So I was just only like trying to prove the world something, just receiving validation from the world. And I remember just like I actually feel ashamed for this, but I was just like recording a salamander, and I just stomped on it. And not even, bro, and I had my camera out. So I had my camera out. I was recording it. And that was what it was about. It was just a way to, maybe somebody thinks it's funny. Maybe somebody, and that's just how goofy it, bro. That's just, so I actually gave up my values to receive validation. That's the funny thing. When you're traumatized, you don't have values. The only value that you live by is, okay, I want to be seen. Receiving validation from the next person. And I will continue to say this. You will do whatever you can to receive that validation. If that is giving up your real identity, so be it. But yeah, I just finished watching a documentary about killer whales, orcas, and it was about southern resident killer whales, orcas, but that's not really important to the story. Just know that their main source of food is, they're running out of that source. It's not that common anymore to have like those big groups of salmon that the southern residents hunt on. And the cause of that is the dams that are built. Dams are being built on like river systems, which doesn't allow the salmon to reach to the ocean. So what will happen is just the salmon in the younger stages of life. This is, now we're talking about Chinook salmon. So in the younger stages of life, they're living in fresh water, but eventually they will reach the sea, and that's where they will switch to like a saltwater fish, and then they will just live along the coast for a while, and to eventually come back to the river that they were born in. They always go back to the river that they were born in to spawn. Like, I don't know how do you, but just to lay their eggs and continue the cycle. But they actually never, and that's actually where the orcas intercept them when they come back from their the region around Alaska. I think that's where they, just that coastline, that's where they live. And if they come back, then they will just start a big migration to go back to the rivers where they were born, and that's where the orcas intercept them. But that actually never takes place because the amount of salmon actually reaching the ocean during the younger stage of life is just has drastically lowered. So that migration just becomes smaller and smaller and smaller again. And orcas are like the apex predator of the ocean. They really resemble, in a lot of ways, they resemble humans. And the imbalance of that will just be dramatic if they go extinct. Then you will see a lot of species will either be very too abundant, or will just also go extinct along them, things like that. But to get back on trauma, the reason why those dams are built, and yes, they provide like energy, things like that, kind of true, but it's also actually proven that a lot of energy that they are producing is actually like abundant energy. A lot of that energy is just not really used efficiently and things like that. But that's another part. That's another story. But why those dams are built, in my opinion, is because of trauma. Like I've said, your brain shuts down. Your interest towards the world shuts down when you're traumatized. So what I actually believe is why those people are just building those dams is like, bro, what can I do to make the most money? What can I do to feel like I'm the most powerful person? What can I do to be like the biggest dude on the block? And I do actually think that that's why those dams are built. So the part of their brain is just shut down, which causes you to no longer feel connected with Earth. Because that's actually the whole thing that trauma does. And that's where also a lot of people come in, no, that's crazy, that's superstition. Bro, I actually believe that's also like a kind of symptom of trauma, right? Because they just gave you a label, and now everything that goes against your label or religion, whatever, now it's superstition, now it's this or that. But because like that's just the whole thing of trauma. It disconnects you with nature, and disconnecting with nature means disconnecting with other human beings, but also with everything that lives within whatever we call nature. And like that's so funny to me. That's so funny to me because that's really the source of why it's so hard to talk about these things. Because even me talking about these things is also like causing basically my own, it's basically like activating my own trauma, in the sense that nah, this is too different from the rest. If we talk about this, they will label you as crazy, but somebody has to do it. And that's also like a huge part of realizing in your life that it's not about you. If this video can make sure that just 2 people or maybe just 1 person be like, damn, bro, yeah, I really need to work on my trauma. I really need to feel like I'm a human being again. And I really need to bring that connection with whatever lives within the realm that we live in. And then I just need to do that. And if that makes me uncomfortable for myself, bro, like that's also a huge part of dealing with trauma. That is not about you, bro. Like, who am I, really? That's our only real task, is ensuring that whatever we do brings us 1 step closer to survival. And the thing is, the things we're doing right now is not surviving. Because yes, you have more money, but what these goofy dudes don't understand is, bro, that money can't beat Mother Nature. Because I'm not worried about Earth, bro. Like, I don't even know whatever system we live in, but I will always know that it will always prevail. We will go extinct. Yes, the animals probably too along that, but like the thing that like whatever you, bro, like I'm not gonna name it things like that. We want to call it the universe, bro. We don't really know what it is. Some people call it God, whatever it is, bro. We don't know what it is. I'm not gonna label it. We don't know it. We can't comprehend it with our brain. It's too small. Yes, we can give it some guidelines, some things to understand it, to like give us a sense of ego gratification. Like, yeah, I know how the universe works. This is the only right way, and the rest is all fake. That's superstition. We can do that, but that's not. We can comprehend it. That's why these labels exist, because we don't know what it is. But whatever it is, it will always prevail. We will go extinct. And like, that's funny, because being survival focused will actually ensure that you actually don't survive. In a sense that, I'm gonna give an example of my own. I was always worried about, okay, how does the world perceive me? So you start doing strange things just to receive some validation. But actually that validation is not even positive. So now people are looking like, bro, why the fuck is this dude doing this extra stuff? So we're focused on power, but we're losing all the power. Because we think it's about ourselves, and that's why we will always lose, because in that sense, you're fighting against life. Bro, life is not about us. It's not about you. We need to ensure that however we call the system works in unison. So we need to really find ways that animals can live free, and that we actually connect with human beings, that we don't think like, nah, those human beings are from the other part of the world. They're like that. That's where the label comes into play, right? Nah, they believe in something else, man. They are enemies. That's just like, that's why, like, nowadays, like, all I really can do is to talk about this. In that sense, it will just relieve my own trauma. It actually feels free to be free. A year ago, I wouldn't talk about this. Like, nah, they gonna think I'm weird. I'm talking about killer whales and like, if that will just ensure survival for human beings and whatever lives within our realm, then we just need to do that. And it will actually feel good once you're not being worried about how the next person perceives you, because now you're not worried about how the next person perceives you. Now you're worried about, how can I help the next person? And that's like, it always amazed me how, but now I understand why, but it always used to amaze me why people think like, oh, you got animals and then you got human beings, and we ain't got nothing with animals in common. We just human beings, and we can do whatever to animals to make us feel the most powerful species, because we are the apex humans. Like, that's really the funny thing that we humans like to believe also. Like, yes, in a kind of sense, like, maybe like how our brain works, we're like the more powerful people, more powerful living organisms, right, within the realm, whatever we live in. Yes, that's kind of true, but that's also like the real reason why you need to level up your life and dissolve trauma, so that you can ensure survival, because who else will gonna do it? Basically, all the animals, all the living things within our realm are counting on us. If we don't do it, who will do it? But this just feels crazy to you because, like, this dude is talking about animals, plants. And I used to think like that too, and that's which kid doesn't love animals? And if he doesn't, it's probably because one of the parents already imposed a fear on them. Like, nah, look out for dogs. They this and that, bro. Like, when you were young, you already had it. You already had that connection within nature. Like, yesterday I was just seeing like kids are so carefree. They are doing things that I wouldn't do. Why? Because you're thinking, nah, that's being gay. That now you're too sweet or something like that. But kids don't actually give a fuck. They're so loving in a way that they just flow with life. And now we already have like those labels, and we're too worried about how the world perceives us, and we are too focused on no, we need to keep that image. So I also noticed it like with things like when I was talking to people, I was never like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna ask that. I can talk too much. That he would just think that I'm a nice guy and that he has one up on me and that he can hurt me. That was how my brain worked. And like this is so important because, bro, like we will notice it. Like, I don't know if you understand this yet, but once you dissolve your own trauma, you will realize how important this is, bro. But what the fuck are you gonna do with your money if all we have is like those ugly cities? We only have skyscrapers. That's what the entire world insists out of. And I don't think those cities are bad and things like that. I do really believe that there are ways that we can actually have like some form of like some luxuries, and at the same time nature is prevalent. Do we need to give some things up? Yes, but maybe it actually doesn't have to be that much that we need to give up. So this is right, like, bro, I'm gonna look you in your eyes right now. This is the reason why I can't stop, because I'm gonna continue to talk about this. I'm gonna like save animals. I'm gonna save humans in a sense, like however I can save them. This might be bragging or something like that, but I just gotta do it. And I was just amazed at how like whatever like whatever, how do you say it, like tribes or tribes, like from whatever the part of the world was where they lived, they always had that connection with nature. The tribes that came before the traumatized society, because a lot of people also now make it a race war, like that it's somebody that you can point your fingers to. And I don't really actually like, I don't really believe that we're at a point that we can point fingers. The only thing is that it's trauma, and that's why you can point your finger at like a group. Yeah, they're the bad people, they only focus about the money, that's why they're doing all those bad things. But at the end of the day, they're also reliving trauma, which gives them that feeling of, bro, I need to have as much as money. And money is not necessarily bad, but it will become bad if you just do everything like to receive it, even if those things are bad, such as chopping down rainforests, building dams, and causing whole entire nature systems to no longer work again. And that's like, there's no longer a certain group of people to point their fingers at, because even myself, I do it. I like to believe like Yeah, there are elites, and there might really be, but there might really not be any. There might just be like a certain group of people. Yes, you can call them elites, but at the end of the day, I do actually believe that those people are also like, in a sense, like traumatized, that they lost their sense of feeling for the next person. And bro, I can tell you anything about it, because that's what trauma will do. Whatever it, even like bro, I will continue to say this. Even if you are a nice guy, you're numb to the next person's feelings, because you're just now niceness is also just like a manipulative way to receive validation. So you're not worried about him or her. You're worried about, no, he needs to like me, so he or she needs to like me, so I'm just gonna be overly nice. So, but at that sense, you're also like not concerned about his or her well-being, only about filling that inner void. But like, once we actually resolve that trauma, then it won't feel good to chop down trees. Then it won't feel good to chop down trees and do all those things. And I do actually believe that there are like real, like, better ways to like still have like a form of this society, like how we, like, however you want to call it, I don't know, like these big city thing, like I don't even know what what it is, but you know what I mean, like how it just like works, that we don't need to give up, like that we all of a sudden need to start living in trees and shit. I'm not talking about it, because I actually believe that wouldn't work. Why? Because bro, we're too far down the line for that. That's like, but there are like, who will teach us to do those things? Like it's possible. Like I might do it for like a phase within my life, just to like have like a retreating session when you're just like done with city life, and you just be like, okay, let me just live over there among like the trees and animals, just animals and trees. I don't want to see any humans. I'm just want to focus on something, or just like feel connected with nature. Yes, those phases, but I don't believe that's not now the solution to do for like the entire population. But so I actually do believe that a lot of things are just worried about too much power, in a sense that, yes, we need to provide the world of energy, but a lot of that energy is not even being effectively used. Now they're just selling energy to whoever want to buy energy to fill their own pockets. They're not really even providing it for like people. They're just filling up their own pockets. But now I'm just pointing fingers. That's just what I realized. Now I'm just, but not, I don't mean it in like that sense, but yeah, like that's really what I believe, that trauma is what makes people feel the need to fill their pockets and at the same time destroy nature. Because once that trauma is resolved, you will still do everything to ensure survival. But now you're connected with nature. Now you're connected with the next human being. Now you're connected with an animal, and not in a sense that all of a sudden you be like, yes, I'm one with the sharks. I am. No, bro. Like, I actually like that concept, though. I'm not gonna lie, I like it. I actually believe in a sense that the only thing that we're only like different in degree. Our consciousness is just only in a higher sense, but at the end of the day, the dynamics that rule us are still the same. Whatever the animal is, or whatever animal it is, it's worried about survival. Whatever who the human being is, it's worried about seeing the next day. We just only have like a different brain that allows us to think differently, which allows us to think like in a more like evolved way, things, something like that. But yeah, I actually believe like that in that sense we're one with animals. But you don't have to believe like in that sense that you're like that you're all of a sudden start riding great white sharks and shit. You just jump on the back of a great white shark and think like, I'm one with the great white shark. Nah, that will might probably get you killed, right? Like, I'm the same with the great I'm the brother of the great white shark. Nah, that will get you killed, bro. But yeah, it will still give you a connection in like a healthy sense. So yeah, I do actually really believe that that's the reason why things are going that bad. Because it's no longer at the like a point that we're like having those dams to ensure survival. No, it's just money, money, money. Because I actually believe to ensure survival, we don't have to do that much. And we sure as hell can do it in healthier ways, but that will just cost more money or more resources to build, and that will just that will take longer. So now that will take bro. If you look for another healthier solution, that will just take 3 extra years, and in those 3 years we can fill our pockets. And whatever group, you feel me? Whatever group that is, not the point like, oh, that group is doing that, is living by those values. No, that's just like a general way. So that's the real reason why animals are going extinct. Because we're too traumatized to feel the connection with them, which just makes us feel justified to destroy their habitat, to destroy them, to ensure our own survival in like a way that's not even the most effective. Like this just, yeah. So yeah. And if you will just dissolve that trauma, like I've said, through challenging those beliefs, by actually suffering, like I've said, life is not all about you. And suffering is telling yourself, okay, now I'm just gonna write about things which make me very uncomfortable. I might cry about it. For every time I write, I'm just crying. But that's also like the funny thing. Like, crying is like something I'm not telling you, don't go on social media and be like crying and shit. Like, yeah, right now I'm journaling and I'm crying, bro. No, you might do that, right? This might also be like a fear of me I might say this because I'm too worried about another person perceiving me as weak. This also might be the reason why I'm saying this, but I don't believe that that's like the best way to go about dissolving trauma. Yet you still need to talk to people. That's also basically what I'm doing. I'm just sharing my story, which is also at the same way just dissolving my trauma, basically. And this is just an interest of me. And that's what will show once you're dissolving trauma. Your interests will come back, because that part of your brain where those interests stem from starts being active again. So now you start sharing your view with the world, and now you're actually able to help the world and potentially make money of it, which just will create also like a business model for you, which is healthier. So bro, it's really possible. And I do really gotta lead by example, but it's really possible to make money, a good amount. Don't give up your connection with nature, so you're not destroying and harming nature as far as really possible. I do actually think like you're always kind of like harming nature, like, but not in a way that it's, how would I say it? I do always actually believe there's always, and that also might be just a part of like balance. Another, like the killer whale eats a seal or a fish, and that's, in that sense, it's harming it. But as long as it's not like in the sense that you make the whole population go extinct, then you're not really like harming it in a sense. Yeah, like, yeah, that's what I really think. Like, as long as you're eating an animal for your own survival, I don't really think that's like that bad. So I also actually believe like that being vegan is also probably not really the right way to go about this. Because the reason, like, vegans, yes, you potentially like lower the amount of the gases that get used within those like meat production plants and all that shit. You know what I mean, and shit. But it's not really that, because behind that plant is probably a person who is traumatized and needs to feel like the most powerful person. Why? Because he doesn't build that sense of self and doesn't feel that connection with nature and his fellow human being. So that's why trauma is actually the core. And all those things, like the meat production, the gases that get released from that, global warming, are all symptoms of trauma. And that's just on a global level. And same with addictions. It's also just a symptom of you escaping your trauma. And on a global level, people are still escaping trauma by doing whatever gives them the most sense of power. So if that's killing animals, doing releasing all those toxic gases into the air that I'm also like guilty of. You also are guilty of that. But I don't really think that's bad, as long as you're like doing something which will really ensure your survival. But now we'll just continue to say like the same shit that I've already said. But yeah, it's just that. It's just symptoms. Trauma is the real core why it's going bad within whatever we live in. Because whatever we do is because we don't feel the connection with nature. Things as addictions, whatever addiction it is not healthy. It's not like in a sense like nature. Hurting another people, that has not another person, has nothing to do with nature. Being addicted to all those things has nothing to do with nature. But it doesn't feel to you like that. Because why? Because you're not connected to nature. So this is, bro, I will never bash people on here because I really had to go through these phases and I'm still going through these phases. So even though sometimes it might look like that and it might maybe feel for, but I'm really not bashing, bro. Like I've already said, bro, I love you. Like, you feel me? When the world doesn't love you, I love you. I probably don't know you, but like, yeah. And that's just, bro, love is the only language that the universe speaks. But now I'm just labeling something that, like, I don't even know whatever the universe is. If somebody asks me, yo, what is the universe? I would be like, That's just the label that I want to give it, you feel me? But, like, yeah. And that will just only be the prevalent language once we're not worried about ourselves in a way that we're not worried about hurting people and doing whatever makes us feel like the most powerful person because we actually feel like not in control over our life. And that's really like something that I've really seen. Like, I don't really care that much anymore about expensive clothes. And when I'm insecure, I still think about, like, bro, when I'm reliving trauma, I will be like, damn, if those girls see me with like Dior right now and drive in that Benz, and then I will probably get way more girls and things and things like that. But that's just my own trauma at that moment. Now I just realize, bro, that's goofy as fuck. So not only will we, once you have that sense of self and that connection, then you won't buy all those expensive clothes. And it will feel good. It won't feel like in a way that you're continuously thinking about, no, I need those Dior's, because at that point then it will just become suffering if you're just continuously living about, no, if I don't have Dior or Gucci, then my life is hard. And then you might not buy it, but deep down you're thinking like, I need it. So that's why I also actually believe, like, if trauma is solved, nobody really feels the need to have like that much money, because like at the end of the day, there just comes there will be a certain amount of money, and then it will just be like, there's no longer really money. Now it's just like, it's no longer ensuring your survival. Now you're just showing the world how wealthy you are. And I don't even really think there's nothing wrong with it. And I actually believe, like, if you make billions out of good work, actually like providing value to the world and shit, then you deserve those billions. And if you want to buy a yacht from that money, like you could do that. So that's not me bashing somebody or something like that and shit, you feel me? You know what I mean, and shit. But yeah, the amount of money that we like feel we need will drastically lower, because we will feel comfortable with ourselves. So we're not worried about, yeah, the next person needs to see me in a yacht or a Lambo, otherwise I won't be able to have no girls, or the dudes won't be impressed by me, and that will drastically lower. So just, bro, start working on yourself, man. Start challenging your beliefs. That's all dissolving trauma really is, like, a lot, challenging those beliefs and allowing yourself to feel what you don't allow yourself to feel because you're too worried about that belief being challenged. And that's just a very simplified version, of course. But yeah. So yeah, I will just continue to show up and talk about this shit, you feel me? So that was my message for today. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. And yeah, feel free to, I will drop my TikTok and Twitter link in my bio, in the description of the video. Feel free to hit me with like DMs. I'm also doing like coaching calls. Like the first 10 people are like free. So yeah, feel free to drop me a DM on Twitter or TikTok, and we can just like get on like a call, and you can like tell me whatever you're struggling with that you think that I'm able to help you. And like you can see what I talk about, so don't start talking about like, yeah, do you know how I can fix my car? Like, bro, I can't help you with that. You feel me? So if you think I'm able to help you, and yeah, and that can be everything. Just know, like, if you think like, okay, this problem is actually not caused by me, by this necessarily this problem, or the situation within this problem is actually more caused by like a trauma that I'm feeling insecure because of the trauma, and that's really what causes me to feel like that, then hit me up. Then I will try to help you. You feel me? I don't. So yeah, that was just like the video. You feel me? Like, yeah, bro, that was just the video, man. So stop watching. You're still watching, bro. Stop watching. Right, looking at me, bro. Don't look at me like that. Now you're triggering my trauma. Now I will get mad at you. Nah, I'm out, man. Yo.